Hey, what's going on guys, it's Alex here from Simple Mods and welcome back to another video. I hope you enjoyed that quick unboxing of the Corsair Crystal 570X case. Now I'm just about to start a new case mod, of course, and that as always starts off with the case. So I thought I'd just sort of go over the case a little bit as I'm disassembling it here. So if you're not familiar with the Corsair 570X case, it is a mid-tower case and it does feature full tempered glass side panels all around, of course except for the back panel, that is, but it does feature tempered glass on the top, the front, the back side panel, and then the front side panel as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disassemble as much as I can of the case. This is also the RGB version. I'm not sure if they sell one that's not RGB, but it does have 3 of their SP120 RGB fans, and then the controller will be mounted at the back as well. And it also has integrated controllers just at the top there for the RGB lighting. So it's fairly easy to disassemble. What I'm going to do first of all is just pull apart all of the tempered glass panels. Now it just has these long sort of screws, sort of these prongs here. You can just sort of unscrew those and the tempered glass panels will just come right off. So it's fairly easy to do. And then it does have a magnetic fan filter, has one on the top and one on the front as well. So as you can see, it also has a magnetic dust filter on the front as well, and then you can get a better look at the 3 fans in the front. So now that I've got all the tempered glass panels off, I'll just quickly give you a look at the back panel. So it's got 2 SSD mounts just here. You can see the other end of the fan controller mounted just here, and they do have the cables routed all the way through to the top here, and then they have all the fans pre-connected if you are buying this case as is and you are planning to use them. So it's good to know that the 3 front panel fans are already connected and hooked up to the controller. It does have 2 3.5-inch hard drive mounts just here, and as you can see here is just the box with all the accessories that they have mounted there. Another good feature of it is this sort of cable covered area just here, and it does have the 2 thumb screws, so you can easily take that off. I'll just quickly show you. I will of course be painting and cutting into this case for my case mod, so I'll go through that a little bit later on in the video once I have the case fully disassembled. So I will be showing you pretty much how to take this case off in its entirety. So there you go, that's that covered there. So it just has these 3 sort of hooks just on here, and it does have some mounting holes there, so as you can push those in, sort of line it up with everything, and you can actually fit quite a bit of cables in there. There you go. Once that all lines up, you can put the thumb screws back on, and it does have some routing holes, so there's one here and then one here, and then of course you can also route through the top and the bottom as well. So I'll just put this aside, just quickly take the hard drive cages out. So to take the hard drive cages, it does have another thumb screw at the bottom, and then they just sort of lift and slide off. There we go, and you can see the accessories box is just mounted into there. Now these are of course just plastic caddies, but they're pretty good, and they're toolless as well, so there's no screws or anything like that involved. Same with the SSD cages as well. It's got some thumb screws just at the top. Just undo those, and then these will sort of push down rather than lift up, and then these are plastic and toolless as well. So what I'm going to do now is actually unplug all of the cables as much as I can. I'll be taking the fans out as well, so I won't be actually using those fans there. I'll be taking the controllers out and all of that as well, and then also want to take the top IO section out of the case. I'll have to remove this top piece from here as well. Once that's out, it just has 2 Phillips screws on there and you can remove it. So I'll be painting into this case, I'll be removing as much as I can of it. Of course, it does include these nice cable straps. They're just with Velcro. They do actually go through the trouble of putting some zip ties there to tie up all these cables. So they actually do put a lot of effort into tidying up all the cables that this case comes pre-wired with for all the RGB and the controller for the fans and all that stuff. There's also another, so I'll just quickly turn it around on the other side while I'm doing this. There's also a LED just behind here, behind the Corsair logo. So that one's not RGB, but it does light up white, and that's actually quite nice. It does have a SATA plug for that as well. So there's a lot of lighting options on this case. Yet another LED that they do have is also there's a Corsair logo on the front. Now I've actually taken that off with the cover, just with the dust filter here, so you can see the Corsair logo there, and there's an LED just at the front, at the bottom there. So when this one's mounted, it does actually light up the Corsair logo in the front panel there. So that one lights up white as well. So there's another pre-wired cable for that too. So I've gone ahead and removed the cover of the top I/O as well. So that's just a plastic cover, it just snaps off. It has a few clips that you can access from underneath. And now that I've sort of freed up all the cables that are attached to the top panel I/O section, it does have 2 screws at the top here. So you can just undo those. They're just Phillips head screws, so they're very easy to take off. And then you can remove the whole assembly quite easily. So now that the top assembly is off, I can also remove just this top section here as well. That sort of acts as a sort of connecting piece with the top tempered glass and the front tempered glass panel. So this one also has 2 Phillips head screws just on the top there. You can quickly undo those just to remove that panel there. I've also freed up all the fan cables from the controller, so I'm just gonna quickly take these out as well. So these are just mounted with just normal fan screws, so they're quite easy to take out. Now another cool thing about this case is, I'll just quickly turn it upside down. There's 2 thumb screws in here. So there's one here and another one here. You can undo those as well. And then the top sort of fan radiator bracket is able to easily come out, so you can install. So if you have an AIO or if you're putting any sort of radiator there with all your fans, you can just pull this out and you can easily do it outside of the case. So that's another cool feature. And I'll just turn it on its front. Same with the front panel as well. 2 thumb screws on the inside, and you can remove the whole sort of fan radiator assembly. If you've done water cooling before and you've installed a 360mm rad or something like that with the fans and everything on it, then I'm pretty sure you can appreciate how easy it would be doing it outside of the case and then mounting it all just by pushing it in and then putting on 2 thumb screws. That's actually quite easy. So another thing I'm going to remove is just that LED from the front there. There's a Phillips head screw just behind. You can undo that as well, and then you can sort of force the LED just pushing it out. And then they do have some clips just at the bottom there, so you can see that they've really thought this through, how they've routed all the cables with all the LEDs. It is actually a case that sort of comes with all of the cables out of the box, but they do a good job cable managing all of them. So just in there, I know it'd be a bit hard to see, but there's a little cover there that covers the sort of LED. So it's got like the PCB, and it'll have the LED sort of hardwired in there. Once I pull it out, I'll show you guys a better look at that. But it does just have 2 Phillips head screws on the back that you can easily pull out as well. So here it is, just a LED board. So I've pulled that out, and now there's just some clips on there that are holding the actual Corsair logo in. So I'm just gonna pull that out as well. There's the Corsair logo there. You can easily pull that out too. And the final thing, and this is where things get a little bit tricky. If you do want to remove the fan controllers, so there's the one piece there, and then the main controller where everything connects. These ones are actually double-sided taped on there, and they are on there quite tight. So there's no screws on the other side or anything like that. I guess that would have been a bit easier if it wasn't double-sided taped on there. So what I'm gonna do to remove that is I'll get my heat gun. You can also use a hair dryer, but I do suggest a heat gun for this, just because you are actually going through the steel metal panel on the other side and just heating it up from the back until you can just sort of pry this off quite easily. I've actually done this in the past, and I have broken one of these controllers before. I can't remember if it was the big one here or the smaller one up there, but I think the PCB inside or something like that was, when I was pulling it out, did actually bend. It might have broke some of the circuitry or something like that, and it didn't end up working. So this only controls the LED, doesn't control the fans. So the fans were still working, but the LEDs weren't turning on because it wasn't getting the proper signal from the PCB that's inside here. So you do have to be a bit careful with that. I think the more you heat it up, the easier it will be to sort of peel it off. So I will go ahead and do that now. So you saw how easy that was. It actually just took a couple of seconds to remove. It's actually a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. I do actually have my heat gun up on max. I'm not exactly sure what the temperature of this one is, but it does get quite hot. And I didn't even have to pull on the controller or anything like that. It sort of just very easily just came off by itself. So I'm just going to quickly just do the other top one as well. And I'll show you guys. So the footage before that you saw, it wasn't sped up or anything like that. It's just how easy it was to remove it. So I'll do the exact same thing again to the top one here. And there you have it. Okay, so now that I've got the fan controller out, the final thing is just to quickly take off the case feet, and then I also have the PCIe brackets in there, so I'm just gonna take these off first. Now to remove the case feet, of course I'll have some screws from underneath. Easily undo those. So there was 4 screws on this foot towards the front of the case, and I did actually drop it, but that's okay. Fell on carpet, nothing happened to it. And then I think there's only 2 screws on the back one, and yep, that's correct. So I'll just quickly undo these as well. Make sure not to drop this one. So there we go, both feet are now off. There's actually another fan filter just here, and it is on this sort of sliding rail. Now this also has some Phillips screws that you can take off if you are planning it painted, which is what I am. 1 screw at the top on each side, and then it's got a clip there that you've got to pull it up. So you can see it just there, and you can see the little hole there. So it's sort of, once you mount it back on, it just slides on. Now I hate having any labels or anything like that on cases, especially because I am going to be painting this one. I'm going to quickly heat this up with the heat gun, and that'll be very easily peeled off as well. It takes a couple of seconds with the heat gun, and just be very careful. Just depends on how long you've heated it up for. But the reason I'm doing this is the glue melts and it doesn't leave any residue. Also, the stickers come off quite easily when doing that. So there you have it, the skeleton of the Corsair 570X case. Now I've pulled apart as much as I could of this case just with my screwdriver, and then of course I did use the heat gun and just my tin snips to cut some of the zip ties that they had for the cables. But the case is pretty much completely pulled apart now. The remaining panels on it are all riveted in, so I will be pulling those apart as well, but I'll show you that in another video. I think this video has gone on for long enough. So what I want to do before ending this video, I just want to talk a little bit about the case mod that I'm going to do to this case, of course. So with this case mod, it will be my first time working with AMD, which is very exciting, and it will be my first Ryzen build. So I'm getting an 1800X from AMD to feature in this build, and I'm sort of going to theme it around Ryzen and AMD. So what I'm going to do to the actual case chassis is I'm going to be painting it in a sort of blue color. I haven't exactly decided what shade of blue that I'm going to be painting it in, but yeah, it's all going to be blue. And then what I'm going to be doing on the inside is I'm going to go with an orange sort of UV color. So blue and orange UV, I think that's going to look really nice. It's going to go well with the whole Ryzen theme. In terms of actual case mods that I'm doing to the case, now I'm not going to be using the front radiator mounting or even the top radiator mounting. As you can see, it's got a nice hole at the top, and then same for the front as well. And I'm actually basing this case mod on something that a friend of mine did, and he's also a case modder as well, and that is Justin, Metallic Acid. He did a case mod in the Corsair 570X. I also did one before for the Corsair Crystal competition, and I really liked what he did to the case. And he mounted the 360mm radiator just here in this area. So he cut out a section there, and he mounted a 360mm radiator there with the pump and reservoir configuration just in front of it. So I'm going to be doing that as well. And the main reason why I want to do that is because then that frees up the entire front section of the case, and then the top section of the case as well, with just a single 360mm radiator just there. And given the fact that this case has tempered glass side panels on the top, the front, everywhere, all around it, it'll give you a really nice good view through the section at the top, Once you've taken that bracket out, you get this really nice section, so it'll give you a really good view inside the case, and then same from the front panel as well. So I'm gonna sort of make this system a sort of feature that you can look at it from sort of any angle, given that it's a fully glass case. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video, guys. In the next video, I'm going to be showing you how to disassemble the case, and then I'll also be painting it as well. So if you enjoy sort of content like this, I try to think that I give you a sort of different look at cases than other YouTubers do. So it's sort of different than your more general review, sort of looking at the case, pulling it apart and talking about it in that way. So if you guys enjoy my content, then do subscribe to my channel, as it does help out a lot. Hit that like button, and I'll hopefully see you in the next one. Cheers.